After a humiliating Game 4 loss, Bam Adebayo thinks big changes are on the way for the Heat. Just how far will they go? And was the decision to avoid tanking the right one? The answer might surprise you on today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or you're on your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day for daily content on the Heat. Yes, still going 5 days a week. Click that subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure you are following us on your podcast app. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Have a great show for you today. I do want to get to why I think making the playoffs was the right move, and losing that lottery pick to make the playoffs in particular was the right move. I've re-changed my mind on that topic, David, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. We're also going to get to our final credit cookie tally for the season, as we do here on Locked On Heat. But I want to start with these Bam comments in response to a question that I asked him in Monday night's press conference. This quote has made the rounds on social media. We hadn't gotten a chance to talk about it on our show, or we didn't get a chance to talk about it on our post-game show. But for full context, I was asking about having lost 2 straight first-round series and understanding the standard that the Heat have, what needs to change. Here was Bam's response.
Bam, 2 straight years of losing in the first round, and obviously you guys hold yourselves to a higher standard than that. What do you think needs to change?
What needs to change? I don't know. It's going to be a lot of changes this summer. Just from my point of view, understanding how, the guy with the silver hair works. So just be prepared for that. And, for me, man, it's understanding gotta figure out how to win a game in the playoffs. You understand how hard it is when you actually get into these trenches. So you take that and you figure it out.
So, David, some pretty surprising, I guess, comments there. At least I found it somewhat surprising how straightforward Bam was. What about you?
I don't know that was surprising. You're in the moment there, and you've just suffered a historically humiliating loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And it's pretty apparent that you're just not good enough to contend. So I see it as kind of a result of, did you not watch the game? Like, did you not see what happened over the last 2 games and all 4 of these games when we got swept? And even going back to last year where, there was a gentleman's sweep against the Boston Celtics. But I don't know exactly what he's thinking in terms of what that entails. Like, it's interesting to say, well, it's pretty obvious that we're going to have some big changes here because Pat Riley, the man with the silver hair, is going to probably make big changes. What does that mean exactly? Like, how likely is it that Pat can go in there and once more transform this roster into something that's going to be better and more competitive than what we saw this past season and over the last couple of seasons? Or maybe it doesn't. I mean, maybe that's the whole thing. Is it just, as so many people might actually want as part of the fan base, is it a signal that there is going to be a full reset, a rebuild of some kind? Is Bam speaking on the perspective of, well, I'm still going to be here. When the dust clears and the wreckage is still lying all around, I'll be the last one standing in terms of being a part of this roster. But other than that, yes, I do foresee big changes coming. There's a lot of ways of reading into that, but I guess he feels pretty secure in his place within the franchise and comfortable in saying that Pat Riley is willing and probably likely to make a lot of changes.
Yeah, I had that response too. That was sort of my initial reaction, is that's the team captain talking. And that's why, by the way, I asked him that question. I didn't ask any other players that question. Bam was the guy to ask that question to, because of exactly that. We understand that Bam is the pillar of this franchise, and fans can gripe with that if they want, but it is what it is. And that's why he's the person to answer those questions. it felt to me like a prediction, but I think you're right, David. It's a little strange, maybe, because this is not the man with the silver hair has not made wholesale changes over the years, right? And obviously that was during the Jimmy Butler era, and we're well past that, and that's the big thing that has changed here. But they've suffered 2 first-round playoff exits, humiliating playoff exits with Jimmy Butler on the roster, and didn't make any major change. Or they did make major changes one time, and then they didn't the next time, and Jimmy Butler was hurt, and we understand what happened last summer. But yeah, I don't know that Pat Riley will be able to make those major changes, but it's interesting to me that Bam is at least anticipating them. Going so far as to predict them, it reminded me a little bit of when Chris Bosh kind of predicted the same thing in 2012, basically saying if we don't win the Eastern Conference Finals, we knew that there was going to be major changes. I think Bosh only said that after the fact, but the players know. The players get it. Right? They can act insulated from all this stuff, and they could put their hand in the sand and just say, I take it day by day, and I control what I can control, and I let my agent handle all that stuff, and I just think about basketball. They understand what's going on. They're well aware of what's going on, and Bam here has been aware all year of what's going on. I remember asking Bam on January 2nd if he knew that Jimmy Butler wasn't happy in Miami before tonight, and he said yes. Like, Bam has had a finger on the pulse as the captain of the team of exactly what's going on, and he's been right about everything. I don't see any reason to think that he won't be right about this.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be. I think it doesn't serve anybody to be delusional. You have to be optimistic, and you can also say publicly and mean it, I think, that you have faith in your ability to try your best or to challenge a competitor. And I think that's kind of been the calling card of this team during the Jimmy Butler era. But that era, as you pointed out, is over now. And at some point, you still have to have some level of talent here, which isn't to say that this team is completely untalented or devoid of talent, but they clearly need higher end talent. And that being the case, then he should be the one, and he should be capable of being forthcoming and saying, you know what, we're not good enough. We're going to have to make changes. And that is his responsibility as somebody here. Now, I wonder, like you're talking about that the players are aware of it. Do they know it's not meshing? Do they know it's not working? Do they know who's not working? Are they?
That's
like,
the key
how
question.
Soon,
they know it's not working. Clearly, it did not work. Do they know exactly why? I would bet some of the players
Terry
have their
Rozier
theories.
have the same kind of ability to be like, guys, I'm the problem. Clearly, I'm the problem. He's not going to stand up in the locker room and say that. But I mean, not to poke at Terry necessarily, but he obviously.
No, but that's the interesting part, right? Is just trading Terry Rozier out of there. What does that do?
Right.
And how easy is it? Not very easy, right? Don't be surprised if Terry Rozier is on this roster next season, Heat fans. I know you don't want to hear it, but who is taking that guy? All right, and you're not moving, and they are not going to part with a draft pick to get off of Rozier's expiring salary. If they just have to eat it next year and send him home at $27 million, they'll do it, right?
Yeah. I think that's pretty
before they start moving more draft picks to get off of him, that would be a waste. But yeah, I think it's a fascinating question. Is if you kind of polled an honest locker room, what needs to change? Who needs to go? Who needs to be added? Like, you would probably get a bunch of different kinds of answers. But I think everybody would say something's got to give.
It's, for the first time in a long time, this feels completely similar to like the Dolphins as they approach the draft. Like what's the common refrain maybe when you look at the Miami Dolphins and they're looking at the draft, what does almost every Dolphin or a draft analysis expert say about what the Dolphins' needs are? They got a lot of needs. They kind of need to shore up everything. It's like that's basically where the Heat are at right now. Over the last couple of years, it's been like, let's get a 3-and-D guy. Let's get a point of attack defender to make up for Goran as he's getting older, and that's what led to the Kyle Lowry acquisition. Let's get somebody who can put pressure on the rim. Hey, there's Terry Rozier. It's always something. You look at this Heat team now, we got a lot of needs here. We got a lot of holes to plug. And there ain't any solutions in the foreseeable future.
Okay, well, let's take it there quickly. This was a little bit of a prediction by Bam. Changes are coming if I know how the guy of the silverware is going to approach things. Do you think he's right? Do you think changes are coming?
I think changes are necessary, and I don't know how changes are coming. To me, the one change that seems most likely to fit what this team needs is Bam and everybody else gone. Everybody. And just start over. Maybe Khalil. And Khalil might be a knock necessarily or an indictment of who he is and his talent level or anything like that. But just keeping Khalil on this roster and athleticism and, some outside touch.
Okay, but is that what you think happens, or is that what you were saying needs to happen? I'm asking for the prediction. I'm doing the dumb sports radio thing. Give me a prediction.
Do you think
changes are made, happens. Yes or no? Nothing happens. You think they run it back?
That prediction is nothing happens. No, I don't think it's running it back. I just think you're going to wind up going out there and the same approach that Pat's had over the last couple of years of being like, let's stick to our guns and let's not give up the whole treasure trove to acquire X, whatever X might be, is not going to work.
I will say this. I can't imagine them running it back. That would be unbelievably stubborn and stupid. I can't imagine them doing it. And even so, if they don't go get that superstar, then you do the thing where you take the step back. But you can't just stay in the middle. This can't be the roster.
But what superstar?
Okay, fine. If you can't get the superstar, take the step back. Everybody but Bam. Like, that's fine. One or the other. But it can't be this. But you got to try for the superstar, and if it's not that, then maybe you go the other way. Look, we're going to talk about offseason stuff, offseason, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's other routes to go. We can get into the nitty gritty at other times. I do think Bam is going to be right, and I think he says it for a reason. I think he knows he's going to be right. But let's take one more step back before we keep looking forward. Were the Heat right to make the playoffs? I have gone back and forth on this. Make the playoffs, lose the pick, this whole thing. I was in favor of making the playoffs. I was then in favor of tanking during the 10-game
You're driving streak. The tank.
I was driving it. Well, I got to tell you, I kind of hopped out as the car was going over the cliff. I just hopped right out, and I went back into, right now, I'm back. The Heat were right to make the playoffs. I'll tell you why after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by the CarGurus. Shopping for a car should be exciting, but it should not be exhausting. In between the confusing prices and the hidden fees, well, it can really feel overwhelming. But that's why I love using CarGurus. They help you cut through the noise and show you the best deals with full confidence. With over 4 million listings, CarGurus has the new and used cars that you're looking for more than any other major online marketplace in the U.S. They verify dealers, provide real price analysis, and give you the tools and data you need to make the right choice without second guessing yourself. If you need a deal you can trust, well, CarGurus makes it easy to compare vehicles side by side with unbiased deal ratings. And the best feature, they got their price drop alerts, so you know exactly when the perfect for your budget. It's no wonder that similar web estimated traffic data shows CarGurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site. Are you buying or selling your next car? Well, you can do that today with CarGurus at CarGurus.com. That's CarGurus.com. Go to CarGurus.com to make sure your big deal is best deal. That's CarGurus.com. CarGurus.com. We'll be right back. Oh, wait. No. Today's episode is also brought to you by WayFair. Spring is here, and that means it's home project season. Whether you're refreshing a room or tackling a full renovation, WayFair is the best kept secret for all things home improvement, from small updates like stylish cabinet hardware to major upgrades like new vanities, sinks, outdoor lighting, or even a new heat roster. WayFair has quality products for every budget. I just upgraded my living room with Wayfair, and the selection is incredible. So easy to use their website, and they've got free and fast shipping that makes it even easier. No hauling heavy items from the store. They've got top brands like GE and Moen at great prices, and you can do everything you're looking for, and you can find exactly what you need to fit your space and style. So Wayfair makes it home improvement easy. Get started now at wayfair.com. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. We'll be right back.
So I've been giving this some more thought, and I think the Heat did the right thing by making the playoffs and holding on to their draft picks in the coming years, losing their draft pick in the lottery this year. You've been on this, David. A lottery pick this year. After it became clear that they weren't going to tank all their way to like the 7th or 8th or 9th best odds in the lottery, we were talking about a 2% chance, 4% chance of moving into that top 4. And like I said, you've been on this. It's, hey, like the 10 to 14th pick is nice, and you could talk yourself into maybe getting some lottery ball luck on NBA draft lottery night. 98% chance you're going to be picking 10 through 14. And at that point, maybe you can find a star there. Stars have been found there. More likely than not, you're not finding a star player there. You're just adding another in the realm of a Kel'el Ware, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Nikola Jovic, kind of nice young player. Maybe we can get excited about him, but at the end of the day, probably not moving the needle for us, not being the star player that we need. So, given where they were at, I think they were right. You can't risk losing 2 unprotected picks, because had they missed the playoffs and kept their pick this year, they would have owed an unprotected pick next year to Oklahoma City, and then that would have kicked protections on a pick from the Terry Rozier trade owed to Charlotte in 2027 because of the Stepien rule. You can't owe draft picks in consecutive seasons. If they owed the pick to Oklahoma City next year, then that 2027 pick owed to Charlotte would have kicked to 2028, and that also would have been unprotected. That leaves you unprotected for 2 years. And the argument in favor of who cares was, well, we could get a lottery pick this year in a really top-heavy draft, and maybe we can go get that star. And there was a moment where I was right there, and I was drinking that Kool-Aid. But let me say this to those of you who want a rebuild in Miami. By making the playoffs this year, this creates the ability to rebuild for the Heat. And let me explain that, because
Please.
if you had kept your pick this year and then lost your unprotected pick next year, well, then you have to be kind of good next year, don't you? You don't want to lose a top 5 pick in that draft. And it's not just next year. You're also going to be unprotected in 2028. So you can't be bad in 2028 either, because then you'll lose a top 5 pick that year. So there was never going to be a rebuild if the Heat missed the playoffs, because they weren't going to just rebuild and then lose their good picks. That kind of defeats the purpose of rebuilding, right? So by making the playoffs this year, the Heat have opened up the ability to actually tear it down. If you wanted to rebuild this summer, now you can do it, because you don't risk losing an unprotected pick next year. This creates the ability to do it. And you're not going to be able to jumpstart it with a top 10 pick, but you'll at least be able to do it, which had you gotten the top 10 pick this year, or a top 14 pick this year, rather, you would have just added that to a group and said, all right, let's hope that they're good and whatever, and just hope Kel'el Ware doesn't take a sophomore slump and that Jaime Jaquez Jr. bounces back and that Nikola Jovic can put it all together. Like, that would have been it.
Yeah.
It would have been the softest of rebuilds. It would have been just adding another pick to a group that doesn't really need it.
Yep.
And a middling pick to a group that doesn't need it, which is better said. So, yeah, I think for those who want the rebuild, by making the playoffs, it makes it possible. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but now at least it's a possibility. If Bam Adebayo goes down with a sprained MCL in the first month of the season, now, first of all, you're not open to that risk of losing an unprotected pick in the case of disaster. Look at New Orleans. Look at Memphis last year. It happens.
Yeah.
So you're not opening up yourself to that risk. But also, if it does happen, you could just do the thing where you say, all right, well, we could just kind of rebuild. We can swallow that kind of pill and just go from there. So if you want the rebuild, now the Heat have the ability to do it. We'll see if they actually do it.
Yeah, that last part was the one I hadn't considered, and I think it's great that you pointed it out, and it's really interesting because we do see it all the time. Like, you can have whatever plans you want. And then somebody says, oh, what is it? I don't know. I think it's attributed to, I think John Lennon, was it? Man plans and God laughs. Like that's the kind of thing with the approach of the NBA draft. It's like, yeah, we're going to keep our picks next year, or we're willing to give up our pick next year because we'd rather be just hope and pray for a chance at getting a top pick in, as you said, a top heavy draft this year. But what happens next year if, again, knock on wood, you have an injury of some kind, which happens? Like, you can't foresee that after Bam's most durable season and after playing in the Olympics just, weeks before the start of this NBA season. There's a possibility of an injury, if nothing else.
Of course there is.
And you can't foresee that. And then all of a sudden, well, your whole season goes down the toilet.
Hero,
and you wind up having a miserable record. And then you look and say, well, we can at least get the draft. Not so fast. Remember everybody who wanted that top 4 pick and instead wound up with the 11th worst player in the draft, or the 11th best player in the draft? Well, guess what? Now you have nothing to show for it. So
no matter what, the Heat are going to have, as long as they don't trade it, the Heat will have their pick next summer.
Right.
Anything can happen now, and the Heat will have their pick next summer. We don't have to play these games. The Heat have their pick next summer.
It's a really interesting. And look, I mean, there's a chance it doesn't happen as much in basketball as it does, say, like football. But you can move up. You can move up or move down, and we'll see if Pat really wants to, and Pat in the front office, I should say, if the front office really wants to, if they believe that highly in one of the top players in this draft, they'll find a way. And I don't know what that means, and I don't know what the acquisition would look like. And I'm sure, again, as the summer rolls out, we'll get to these possible scenarios. But if they want a top pick, they'll find a way to get it. I just
Charlotte at number 3 in the draft lottery. At least Charlotte at number 3.
Yeah.
They need there's history between the organizations. There is a need for real 3-point shooting in Charlotte. Charles Lee wants to be a 3-point shooting team like the Boston Celtics. They don't have that guy. Tyler Hero could be that guy. I'm just throwing things out there. Ooh. New Orleans at number 4. Do they really want to add a pick, or do they? I don't know. Are they trying to still do the Zion Williamson thing? I have no idea. Philadelphia, same thing. Who knows? You're right. We could do this later. Yeah, I
threw a lot out there within the span of 30 seconds.
Here, just think about this.
Shell shocked here.
But the point is, everything's on the table now. Whereas if you had missed the playoffs, you would have been banking all of it on a few lottery balls bouncing your way and sneaking into the top 4 of this draft, and then maybe that player becomes something. And then you have the whole other conversation of, well, we just drafted a 20-year-old. What does that mean for our 25-year-old and our 27-year-old? Right? And then that's the whole thing. But by making the playoffs, you actually create the ability to tank. And it doesn't mean that the Heat will do it, but we go back to what we were talking about in the first segment, David, and say, okay, well, we struck out on Giannis, Kevin Durant, whatever. Just name those stars. Let's say hypothetically we struck out on all of them. Yep. Pat Riley could just say, you know what? Pull the plug. Take the step back. The next draft is supposed to be really good. Boozers kids?
Oh, yeah. Keep them
Miami kids.
Homegrown, right?
Yep. Just saying. All right. We are going to wrap up today's show with a couple of listener questions and our credit cookie roundup. We'll do it next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, well, potentially anyway. And with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when the demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer. You know what? Let's change tip-off. You know what? Maybe it's about when the puck drops, because let's go Cats, right? And their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Last-minute deals, again, 60% off buying last minutes for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever you're looking for, and you've got their all-in pricing feature. No surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account and use the code LOCKEDONNBA. Get $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply, but create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We'll be right back.
Before we get to our credit cookie roundup, we got a couple of listener questions that we didn't get to in last night's post-game show, David, that come from Zay, who writes in, hypothetical, if Giannis asks out and let's say he mentions Miami as an option, and let's just say he wants to play with Bam, so Bam is not on the table, who are you willing to give up for Giannis? Everybody, right?
Yeah, sorry.
Take all of it.
I mean,
whatever you can fit in your cap and on your roster, take your pick. Whatever draft picks, they're all yours. We have 3 first-round picks. Take them. Whatever else you want, it's all yours. Give us Giannis, and we'll pair him with Bam. Right?
Yes. I also think that Milwaukee would probably want Bam in exchange for Giannis.
Yeah. And Giannis does not have that kind of leverage where somebody like even Kevin Durant has a little bit more leverage because Durant will be a free agent in 2026. Giannis is under contract for a couple more years, so he doesn't have as much leverage. If I'm Milwaukee, I am definitely well, I don't know, actually. I don't know. If you're Milwaukee, do you want 27-year-old Bam? Like, you're losing Giannis, and you're sort of rebuilding. It's like, okay, now we have Bam, Damian Lillard coming off of an Achilles injury, Kyle Kuzma. What is that roster? It almost feels like you would want nothing other than draft picks and cap space back. But, that's for Milwaukee to figure out. But if you're Miami, you would say, yeah, take all of it. Another question from Zay, who writes in, okay, front office question. Does upper management need to consider switching up the coaching personnel around Eric Spoelstra, maybe perhaps more defensive or offensive-minded coaches? I think this is interesting for a few reasons. It could also happen, something to monitor. Chris Quinn, is he going to be interviewing for jobs? He's been mentioned potentially. I don't know if he's a favorite anywhere, but look, I said on yesterday's show, David, I think everything has to be evaluated, and I wouldn't mind if Eric Spoelstra got in some outside help and added it to the bench. If he thinks that there's somebody out there that could help, I think they should explore it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's so overstated. Like, I think Spo ultimately makes whatever decisions are necessary, and I think he's competent enough, obviously, and smart enough and capable of making whatever decision. To me, coaching is at the NBA level more than anything else really ego management, and I think they've got the right people for that, between having a cadre of former Heat players and Caron Butler, Malik Allen, and Wayne Ellington. You've got Goran Dragic basically waiting in the wings to become an assistant coach. So a lot of different options.
Assistant coach.
Got Udonis, participating in practice and stuff like that. There's enough, I think, veteran connection there. The problem is ultimately talent. So I don't know that you're going to get what top tier assistant coach are you going to get in there.
Well, the other point too is
that much of a difference.
You've got coaches like Steve Kerr who are sort of CEOs.
Sure.
And they'll say, all right, I got this coach. He's in charge of the defense. This coach, like Steve Kerr, will give up his lineups. Like Mike Brown was in charge of the lineups in Golden State for years. Steve Kerr was not in charge of the rotations. He's got an offensive coach. He would just like, you handle all this stuff. Ron Adams, you're in charge of the defense. And then you have coaches like Eric Spoelstra who are doing they're in it. Like they're the mechanics. They're in charge of the whole thing. They're in charge of the garage. They're working on the big cars. They're working on the expensive equipment, and everybody else is just taking what Eric Spoelstra doesn't have time for. That's Spo. So it's not like he's going to go out and bring in like Mike D'Antoni, just trying to throw a name out there, and just be like, hey, Mike, you're in charge of the offense now. That's just not how Spo operates. All right. Credit cookies. Do we do the song? Let's do the song.
One last time.
One last time. As you know, we hand out credit cookies after every Heat win, so we totaled up the final cookie count. And David, I have here in my hand the final results of the credit cookies for the 2024.
Are we going in descending or ascending order?
I don't know the difference. We're going to start with
ascending
the highest
is leading
and move
up to
from there.
number one, right? Ascending is leading up to number one.
No, I think it's actually more interesting to go number one down, because I think we all know who number one is going to be.
Do we? I think there's some intrigue. I think so, but I'm not sure exactly.
Well, let me do this. You want to guess the top five?
Top five.
Give me a top five in any order. It doesn't have to any order. Just give me the names.
Top five, I would say Tyler.
Yep,
Bam.
that's one. Bam
Jimmy.
is. Are we? I guess.
Are you not
Jimmy.
including Jimmy?
I think we can settle that here. We're including Jimmy. Jimmy is fifth. He's fifth, despite playing half the year and giving up in January. So you got Tyler, you got Bam, you got Jimmy. You're missing 2 others in the top 5.
Ooh, that's going to be interesting because I'm trying to think of who stepped up and the certain role players. Like Davion Mitchell was fine.
You were
but I
also
don't think...
pretty much in charge of handing out the credit cookies. So you should.
Yeah, I should know this. But
know.
I'll be honest with you. Just like a good shooter who's got an 0 for 8 streak, I have a short-term memory, baby. I write that up the day of and I forget about it. You know, it's not sticking with me for a long time. Gee, I don't know, man. Duncan
is on the list.
Whoa. All right. And then
he is third.
Can't be. Yeah. Okay. Can't be Khalil Ware.
Nope.
It's definitely not Terry Rozier. Although he was sprinkled in there here and there. See, I don't know. I can't think of the 5th one. All right, I'm at a loss here.
Nico.
Wow. Talk about making an impact in a short amount of time. Good for him.
This is how you know you're in charge of the credit cookies, because every time Nico had a big game, you were like 4 credit cookies for Nico. You were just like, let's go.
Keeping my agenda alive.
Tyler Hero led the way with 94 credit cookies. Congratulations to Tyler Hero. Not only did you make your first All-Star game, you also finished the year for the first time at the top of the credit cookie list. What's the bigger honor?
In perspective here. Yeah, you know, exactly.
Bam was second with 45 credit cookies. Almost half of Tyler's credit cookies.
Well, he only played half the season, really.
Bam?
Yeah. Well, he played a lot of games.
He was only good for half the season. That's a good point. He was really bad to start the year. Duncan comes in at third with 23 credit cookies. Couldn't even get on the court for the important parts of that last playoff game, but whatever. Nikola Jovic, 22 credit cookies in 4th place, and Jimmy Butler, 5th place with 21 credit cookies. We've got surprise tie for the next spot, 6th place. Jaime Jaquez Jr. with 15 and Davion Mitchell with 15.
Wow.
Davion Mitchell, he might have had the highest cookie average per game.
Yes, right.
Considering when he was acquired. Khalil Ware at 14, Andrew Wiggins at 13, Alec Burks with 10, Haywood Highsmith with 10, Terry Rozier with 9, Pella Larson with 9, Drew Smith with 4, Kevin Love with 3, Kyle Anderson with 3, and that is your credit cookie final tally for the season.
I don't even remember him even playing at any point.
Best wishes to Kevin Love.
I'm sorry.
No, I know that's not what you meant, but we hadn't gotten a chance to say, his dad passes away and it's revealed that's why he's missed so much time. Totally understandable, especially considering that he was essentially out of the rotation. Not that should matter, but it does. And so best wishes to Kevin Love, and a very touching moment at the end of that Cavs game between him and Tristan Thompson, kind of consoling him there. But to end on a happy note, he did also get 3 credit cookies this season. So there's that. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On NBA Game Night, every game, every night until an NBA champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts.